Hello and welcome to the match report hosted by Cahill, myself, Kojo on my left. He's on my right, but reverse cameras, man. It's one of those things. It's one of those things. But yeah, how you doing, Kojo?
I'm good. I'm good. It actually feels weird to say I'm good on this podcast for God knows how long.
It's been a minute, man. It's been a minute.
Been a
You
minute.
know how I'm feeling?
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling exquisite, my friend. It's going quite well. I'm quite surprised by this, but it's going quite well as an Arsenal fan. Very different to last season, and I'm glad. And we'll get into it later. Steve, down there, all alone. How you doing, sir?
I am down here all alone. You're quite right, mate. Yeah, this is really surreal because normally I'm sitting here all pigeon-chested and gloating about what we're doing and taking Man United to the cleaners. But hey, how things change, eh? Yeah, I'm good considering, mate. I've reconciled anger with disappointments. Now going sort of disappointment into a sort of it is what it is scenario, mate. But I'm sure we'll get into it. There are concerns, obviously. Last night brought about quite a few. Yeah, there's a bit of a conversation to be had around that, really, isn't there? So, again, boys, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to come and chat with you guys. And the new season is upon us, and here we are. And I'm down here strategically for a reason, I guess. Yeah.
I say let's get into it.
Let's all look down at Steve. Yeah, so
fair, man. You're walking alone right now. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, that mate! I should have done the speaker system.
You should have done the speakers. You should have done the speakers. You shouldn't have told me a damn thing. But too late now. We'll start there though. Manchester United 2, Liverpool 1. Goals from Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford already, and obviously the consolation goal from Mohamed Salah to make it 2-1 in the end. Kojo, you're happy, you're beaming, you're smiling, especially considering you were on Don Rugby the other day. And we caught pictures of you. I've got them on the group chat. I shall make them the title or the group chat picture. I don't know, yeah. But how are you feeling? So 2-1, good result, especially after the past two games.
Yeah, the last two games were an absolute disgrace. So we needed a big performance and we needed big changes. And Ten Hag made the changes. He dropped Varane. He dropped Maguire. Huge. I mean, a lot of United fans, myself included, have been saying that he's been dropped for a while now. But that's for a game against Liverpool where your captain is not starting the game. That's a huge decision to make, regardless of what we feel about him. Luke Shaw not starting as well. That means he put faith in Malacia. And considering how in the past, Man United left backs have had their games against the biggest rivals for Man United. It's not turned out well, ever included. He had a nightmare against Man City. We can list off the names against Liverpool or Man City or Arsenal or Chelsea. It's not been good, but big choice to put him in as well. And he didn't pick any of the two strikers, Ronaldo or Martial, which is another big one as well. So when I saw the lineup, I was pleasantly surprised. And I say pleasantly surprised because it gave me a bit of interest. I mean, I was really interested in the game naturally, but I'm looking at that lineup. I'm like, okay, he's made some big decisions here. That was before I saw the Liverpool's lineup. So yeah, I think the choices at the beginning reflected the overall performance because you saw a hunger in the defense, you saw a better press going forward, you saw a midfield who, again, Eriksen was fantastic. I think Bruno and McTominay were in and out of the game. But even then, they were doing things I haven't seen them do either ever or in a while. Bruno Fernandes being more eager to get to the ball first. For example, set up Elanga's chance, of course. McTominay making a lot more forward passes. So that might have been something that Ten Hag looked at him and said, listen, if you don't do this today, you're in big trouble, mate, because Casemiro's obviously joined us as well. So, it was, I know we'll go further into it, but to answer your question, very happy with the 3 points I played against Liverpool. We needed a big performance. We haven't beaten them in 6 years. So,
excuse me?
Yeah, we hadn't beaten them in 6 years. A lot of draws in between there, but also a lot of
home and away.
Home and away. So the last win was when Marcus Rashford scored those 2 goals in the 2-1. When he was 18 years old.
Man.
Yeah, it's been that long. So
To be fair, I don't think we've beaten Liverpool in ages either. So we're right on the same boat
I
there.
mean, most people haven't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, the fact is to get a good win like that, a really good win, and a morale booster after losing 2 games that badly to teams that we would on paper be expected to beat, to go against Liverpool, who have been with City in the last couple of years and beating them and deserving the win. It's a good way to hopefully get the wheels rolling and get us back on track.
I mean, Steve, I imagine you're literally the opposite. I mean, this has got to be. I think this is definitely, well, in Klopp's era, this is definitely the worst start to a season that he's probably had. Might be one of the worst starts Liverpool have had to a season as well. I mean, especially Premier League. That's what I can remember anyway. But yeah, how are you feeling, man?
Yeah, exactly the opposite of what he just said, to be honest with you. It's tough. It's tough. It's been a tough start to the season. We've lacked intensity. Excuse me. The ironic thing is the assistant manager brought out a book called Intensity, and there's a video of him going around the training ground presenting it to the players, and they've kind of, what's happened? It's like all the intensity's in the book, but not on the pitch. So it's been tough, mate. Not fun to watch, and I'll be honest with you, we got what we deserved last night, which is nothing. You know, the only positive to come out of the game is the same positive that's come out of all 3 games, which is Harvey Elliott, who is a 19-year-old kid propping up our team this season, which in itself isn't ideal. But if you're good enough, you're old enough. I would say that. He's going to be a special player. His link play and his ability to see things is really good. I don't know. Well, I do know what the issue is. I've got an idea what some of the issues are, but going so deep into last season and ultimately missing out will take it out of you, man. It will. You might not think it, but you lose the league title in the last 15 minutes on the last day of the season, and then you go to the Champions League final for like the 10th time in our club's history, and you don't win. That takes something from you. And we were tired anyway. We played 63 games, every single game of every single competition. We geared our pre-season around getting ourselves ready for the Charity Shield. We wanted to make a statement, which I believe we did. We were very, very good in the second half in particular. And the wheels have just come off. To say the wheels have come off sounds mad, because it's not actually the wheels, it's the middle bit. So the wheels are normally at the front and the back. It's the bit in the middle that's fell off. We've got major problems in our midfield, and it's interesting listening to Kojo reference Scott McTominay making forward passes. The 4-0 at Anfield, we could have played Judy and Margaret from the kitchen in midfield because United didn't have one. We really could have played anybody we liked. And you could almost say the same in reverse in the game against United. Our midfield was non-existent. So yes, if you give Scott McTominay time on the ball to look up, he will pass forward, especially when he's been encouraged to. If you're not quick to clear lines, and I've seen Bruno Fernandes try and press Liverpool before, and it was laughable, but we helped him. We helped him. So we've got some questions to answer. I'm sure we'll get into that. But for me, as a perspective, this isn't a reality check. Fulham was a reality check. Crystal Palace was a reality check. Manchester United is a game that brings about some genuine concern. That said, if there was ever a game that was going to hit rock bottom for United, it was Brentford. That's as bad as I've ever seen it for United in my entire life. So the only way really they could go was up, because you probably couldn't be any worse than that. What better game than the Northwest Derby to go and make a statement to your fans and show them what you're about? And you have to respect that they came with the right work ethic. The quality in the game at times wasn't great. The quality in the times was from Manchester United as opposed to Liverpool. They exploited that right-hand side, and I'm sure we'll get into that because again, that comes up in the conversation. I just don't think we had the desire to win the game, and there are some real glaring things that need to change at the football club, and some questions that need to be answered regarding recruitment in particular.
That was literally going to be my my next question, because I mean, yes, Harvey Elliott's been well, but he played well, but he has been holding up that midfield. Fabinho was injured. Thiago, obviously, everybody knows he's injury prone, so he might miss a few games here and there, or miss a few games for a while as well. So why was there nobody brought in for backup? I mean, everybody knew that when you lost with Wijnaldum, it might have got it might have seemed better, but it looks like it's gotten worse because you're honestly that midfielder yesterday. I'm gonna say it was laughable. James Milner was getting absolutely roasted. He didn't know what to do. Was Jordan Henderson playing as well?
Mm.
Captain, I understand, but I mean, really, he's not good enough. I'm sorry, he's not good. He's not technically good enough. He's a great leader. He's been a fantastic captain for Liverpool over these recent years, but quality wise, he's not up there. And obviously, Harvey Elliott's a young kid, so go into that game. I guess it's all to play for, but I think he played well. But apart from that, that midfield is awful. What happened in the summer?
Well, we put all our eggs in the Jude Bellingham basket, and it didn't happen. We thought we could offer, because if you look at the Haaland deal, for what they sold Haaland for, they didn't get very much money for a player of that caliber, and they spent £35 million more than they got for him anyway. And they're not a cash-rich club. They are a club that's always sold their prize assets to then go and buy 3 or 4 or 5 and develop them. And if you look at their balance sheet over the years, they've been really, really good at that. We genuinely thought we'd have a go at, once Tchouaméni decided that Real Madrid was his move, because we were in negotiations for that. We decided to put our eggs in that basket. But here's the situation we find ourselves in. Milner was probably better than Henderson. Well, he was better than Henderson last night. The highlight for me of the game was Milner's passion when he gave Van Dijk the bollocking for not closing the ball down. Shows he cares, shows the type of man he is, shows the professional he is, and I respect that. Then there's a still of both Van Dijk and Milner giving Henderson down the banks for giving the ball away to Martial for the second goal, which was horrendous. You're right. Great leader, a great captain, approaching his 32nd birthday, and football has changed around us in the Premier League in terms of the intensity of other teams' midfield. You look at Brighton's midfield, we've got Calcedo, who's really intense, really wants to win the ball back off you. You look at Brentford were all over Man United. Every time they put a foot in the ball, they were snapping into challenges. We didn't have that. We just didn't have that. So here's the deal. Here's my thoughts. And I've been saying this all day to friends and people I speak to. If there's £120 million in the bank for Bellingham, go and buy 2 now for 60 million each. That changes your midfield. Because if this carries on, and I'm not suggesting it will, but there's enough concern amongst people that I respect in and around Liverpool football media, if you like. If this carries on, we don't get 4th place, Jude Bellingham won't come anyway. So we're there's a risk here. So we're not a poor club. We got to, as I've said, an ace of winning a quadruple. We've had the Champions League money for that. We've had the prize money that goes with that. We're big on TV revenue because of who and what we are, same as Man United. If they want Bellingham next summer, they'll find the money for him, irrespective if they spend 100 million to sort out the midfield right now. Thiago is technically one of the best footballers to ever pull on a Liverpool shirt. He does things with the football other players can't dream of. But he plays for 5 games and he goes missing for 10. He's never played more than 30 games in his career. He's a fantastic footballer. But that's the combative part of football. That's where all the action happens. That's where the tackles go in. That's where people get hurt. That's where people get injured. And we just seem to have acquired someone that, for all of the good things that he does, we're now at a stage where the question is, can you rely on him? And I don't think you can. So he should be in the squad when he's available to play and when he's fit, but he's going to have to be managed so much differently going forward in terms of the minutes and the numbers. The sports scientists are going to have to look at all of the muscle density and all of that stuff to try to stop him picking up these injuries, because it was pretty innocuous and suddenly he's gone for weeks. Keita, gone for weeks. Henderson, susceptible to injuries. Curtis Jones, injured. Now, we went with that midfield last night because we didn't have a choice. So, are we naive enough to think that there's one centre midfielder that can change Liverpool's world? No, there isn't. There's other centre midfielders out there we could go and look at. I'm a big fan of Barella at Inter Milan. They're not cash rich. They want to buy Lukaku at the end of his loan. Go and give them the money to do it. That's how you do this. So there's a concern with me and some of my friends and some people, as I said before, that I respect, that Liverpool Football Club might go, we'll soldier on with what we've got. And there's teams out there Fulham that were bigger, more intense, faster to the ball to us. I don't want to see a recurring theme of the first 3 games of the season. So recruitment should have been the midfield. It would have been to Shevney, but he decided to go to Real Madrid. And Dortmund just stuck by their principles and said, we're not letting 2 go out the door in the same season. We've not done it before. We're not doing it again. It's a risk. We're playing with fire because something's changed in the Premier League. The sides now, you look at Newcastle and we'll talk about that. And you look at Brighton and I'm sure we'll talk about that. And you look at your team, Arsenal, something different. There's a different energy about these teams. And you have to evolve with them. Because if you don't evolve with them, they'll catch you up. And I'm concerned. Looking at what I saw, I'm concerned. But on the flip side, and this isn't a dig at United, Kojo, don't take it this way. We are a Lopez ribcage away from drawing 2-2 at Old Trafford, and Manchester United are bigging up their performance, and we think ours is in the mud. So there's still a bit of distance to go for United to get back to where they want to be. I would strongly encourage them not to look at Liverpool's performance as a barometer of where United are right now, because that's arguably the worst performance I've seen under Klopp in terms of executing a game plan and having enough savvy to get through a game. If Lopez doesn't get in the way of Martinez, doesn't get in the way of that slice kick from
Bruno, yeah,
it's 2-2, and we're going, Christ, we've got away with another one there, boys. But the reality is we didn't deserve to get away. We got what we deserved, but there's an hour-long show afterwards of Gary Neville stood on the touchline and I really wanted to see this. I love this. He's done this. He's done that. He's had 9 days. He's got into them. Kojo, in all honesty, look at Liverpool's performance yesterday. If you'd drawn 2-2, you'd be very disappointed. You'd still be asking questions about Manchester United. It's really, really small margins. It really is. That's you're talking 2 inches away from a draw. But I'm not saying that to sort of pee on people's bonfires and stuff. Do you know what I mean? United got what they deserved because they had the right work ethic, they had the right mentality, they played as a team. They fully deserve, let's be clear, they fully deserve the 3 points. But don't judge them on what is arguably the worst Liverpool performance I've seen in 7 years.
I'll say from a Man United perspective, I mean, yes, we do know how bad you guys were, because I don't know how you feel about the subs that were made, but I was confused as to why Milner stayed any longer than 45 minutes on the pitch. I didn't understand. I didn't understand why that was done, or why on first for Henderson rather. Not that Henderson had a good game either, by the way, but I didn't just understand that. But I mean, looking back, I mean, either one wasn't great. So, got a third member of free midfield making some noise.
A third, that would be very upset. But yeah, go on.
But no, it's the fine margins that help you win stuff. Every team gets their luck when they go for, title charges, top 4 races, all of that. We got very lucky. We got very lucky with that, because what Bruno Fernandes did there was a panic. It was in panic mode. The ball was in the box. It was everywhere. He didn't know what to do. He just swiped at the ball. Luckily, Martinez was there. And that's the luck that you need to get sometimes. As a United fan, I feel like we haven't had much luck, but then at the same time, we haven't deserved luck because we've been genuinely poor. So if we've got this luck in this game, I'm taking it, because we did play well. And you're right. If it did end 2-2, I would have been fuming, because you guys did not play well. We played. I think we played good. I won't say Man United were great. I won't say Man United were excellent. I think we played a good game. I think certain characters stood out. Certain characters have stuff to work on. Certain characters have excitement about them, because someone like Malacia, for example, young guy, he's come in. Luke Shaw's been dropped. What's he made? He's aggressive. He's got something exciting about him when you're watching him. He's very aggressive and very involved in the game. So a lot more will be made of that performance. But I think he played all right. I don't think he was spectacular. I don't think he did anything bad, but I don't think he did anything fantastically well. But I think the only thing that I would say that should be very, very concerning for Liverpool, aside from obviously the midfield issues and the transfer market dealings, if there was, because me, you and Steve have had we've already had this discussion where we said, why haven't Liverpool maybe gone into the market for a plan B? And Steve's made a fair point that, when you want your plan A is who you think is going to join your team and slot into the role and play the role correctly and all that. That's why I'm sure they're happy they got Darwin Nunez. I'm sure he was their plan A signing as a forward. I'm still of the aspect of, even though plan B is not plan A, because of how difficult the transfer market is and how good Liverpool are now, they're competing with City, with Real Madrid, with Bayern Munich for players, is very not that it's I don't know, misplaced to think that if they go for a plan A, they will get their plan A. I think it's more a case of, like Tuchemani, you said it, he chose Real Madrid. So if he was plan A, what is the backup? Because if when Real Madrid want players, it's very difficult to compete with Real Madrid and stop them from buying tech players, so that would be my thought process. But I think the most concerning thing was the defending, because both goals, there are errors that don't need to happen. There is complacency in the defending from individuals. There is lack of awareness. There is lack of effort, I would say, as well. I'm not expecting everyone to run at 100 miles per hour for 90 minutes. It's impossible. But at 15 minutes of the game, I'm expecting a bit more for some players. And, we'll talk about the goals. But, yeah, I think that's the most concerning thing for me. There's been, in these 3 games, there's been very poor defending from Liverpool, which is, considering how good they've been in the last 3 years or 4 years, especially with their centre-back pairings, whether it's Matip, whether it's Konate, whether it's Van Dijk, obviously, Joe Gomez before the injuries. Very concerning defending from Liverpool.
Oh, I would agree. Yeah, very lazy, very languid defending. Very lazy, languid performances all season so far. 3 games, 3 poor performances. It is early enough in the season to turn it round. World Cup's going to be a massive leveler. I think anyone who comes is in the mix sort of before the World Cup starts. City send 14 players to the World Cup. That's a big part of your squad that's going to go and play games in ridiculous conditions, and may well come back off colour. So I think the key for the key protagonists in terms of who's going to win the title is to be there and thereabouts. If Liverpool win the next 6 games in a row, which off the evidence of last night will prove difficult, then other results will go their way and they'll find themselves in and around the top 4-ish. Okay, and then going to the World Cup, we don't have the same amount. Salah's not going, for instance, so he gets that period off. We're going to do some warm weather recuperation stuff. It could be anybody's. Anyone who's in and around the top coming back off a World Cup. It's just it'll be wide open because of that World Cup changes absolutely everything this year. Yep. But going back to your point, Kojo, I'll quickly touch on this because we've had this conversation before. I've been number one advocate of championing Trent Alexander-Arnold as a creative influence over a defender, and in my view, correctly so. But it's become such a tactic for the opposition. We've got to change it because there are bad team goals to concede when he's not home, and it's really easy to single him out for some of the errors he's made. But his pre-season targets are about creating goals and being the playmaker. You can't be both. You can't be the guy that's trying to get advanced to Salah and creating stuff, and your last line of defence in, let's call it, the Aaron Wan-Bissaka mode, where you are not getting past me. I'll put in a ridiculous slide challenge and win the ball. That's not his game. But we've gone past that point. We've conceded the first goal in the last 7 games. So straight away, you're playing catch-up. Straight away, it's deja vu. It's like, here we go again. We've now got to not only score once, we've got to score twice. We've got to knuckle down and get on with it. It's not a great place to start football matches from, certainly against a pumped-up United side for 75 minutes. Tough to do. So we have to change our tactics. We have to move things to whether the move for Trent into midfield is coming sooner rather than later, because it isn't working as it is.
Is that an option for him now? I feel like, because he obviously got that trial run with England. Well, to be fair, it was just 1 game and he didn't exactly play particularly well. But do you think it's that's in his future?
He plays more inverted.
Are you hoping that it's in his future?
I'm open-minded, and he plays more inverted when he plays for Liverpool. When he steps into midfield, he doesn't hug the touchline. He comes in field, and he plays in the space that sort of is created by the fact that we have quite a flat middle 3 that's quite passive. There's usually some space in front of them for him to operate in. But you can't keep ignoring the fact that it's a target for every single team and they're getting success down there. You really can't. And when you see the team like it's fine. It is what it is. They've got a decision to make how they change things. This Calvin Ramsey is going to be a good player. The lad we bought from Aberdeen. He's very young, but he's going to be a good player. So in the future, there's nothing to stop him taking the right back position. Why not? Why not? Why not go to do what Chelsea do? Because at the moment we're too easy to beat or we're too easy to get at. And play three centre backs with two wing backs. If you played Gomez on the right, Matip in the middle, Van Dijk on the left, with Trent and Robertson slightly advanced to them, that's pretty decent. That's pretty decent setup with two holding midfielders, and then you still got your rotation in the three up front. So it becomes like a 3-4-3, but in a different format. Something's got to change. We're too easy to get at. We're too predictable and we're too easy to get at.
I think it's easy to pinpoint the position that you guys are missing, and I think that's very much Sadio Mane. But then again, the blow of losing Darwin Núñez for 3 games, that's obviously a hindrance as well. So I think it's going to take time for Núñez to adjust. He's doing well right now before the stupid red card against Palace. But do you think that front three is going to eventually click into gear the same way that it had happened with Mane? Because it is very different. You're pretty much aiming for Darwin Núñez now. You're not allowing these forwards like Salah, like Mane, just to get in the box and get you goals. You're trying to create a focal point.
I think there's a bit of development on both sides. We've got to learn how to get the best out of him. He's got to learn to play with how we get the best out of our team and our system. So for me, they've both got to learn. So he's got to learn when to run, where to run, and we've got to learn to give him the ball at the right times. I've often been a champion of the saying, good footballers give the ball to players in positions where they can hurt people. You know, this is what De Bruyne does. This is what Thiago does. This is what Bruno Fernandes has got in his locker as well. It's an ability to open up the body and find someone in a position where then when they get the ball, they're like assisters of the assister, if you like. He's got a lot to learn. He's going to be a target, so that's going to make it difficult for him. Now central defenders are going to try and wind him up, so he's got a lot to learn in that regard. He is sharp. He plays on the shoulder. He absolutely terrorised Ruben Diaz when he came on in the Charity Shield. I could not believe how many times we got one-on-one with that guy, and he didn't deal with it. And it really, really highlighted some flaws in his game. So yeah, when he comes back for the derby of all games, and I'm not sure he starts when he comes back for the derby either. I think Jota will be fit by then, and Jota will play through the middle. I think we saw, whilst we have this love affair for Bobby Firmino and all the things that he's done, he had more balls in defensive centre, more touches of the balls in the central defensive midfield position than he did in the final third, where he might hurt United. So that's hard to watch when he has to drop into the centre circles, the wrong side of the centre circle too, to pick the ball up to try and get things going for Liverpool. That tells you something fundamentally is wrong. The link play isn't there, and it wasn't there last night. And it was a pretty easy game in terms of Luis Diaz was okay. He put in a shift, but Dallow's quick, and Varane played reasonably well last night as well. So yeah, a lot for Núñez to learn, a lot for Liverpool to learn about Núñez. The danger is, Kale, is that we're learning this in real time during games, and with that comes a risk, because then if it's not working for Núñez, you're relying on Salah picking something out the bag. But when Núñez plays as an orthodox 9, because that's what the game requires, Salah drifts slightly further wider and he can't influence the game in terms of goal scoring from there. So there are things to learn, and it's not going to happen overnight. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Núñez could go to the World Cup as understudy to Suarez and Cavani and have a saying that and come back feeling like $1 million and transform that form into the Premier League. But I'm clutching at straws when I say that, to be brutally honest with you. We're learning and we're blooding. Luis Diaz is still learning. 2 of our front 3 have played less than 30 games in the Premier League, and that's not a good recipe for cohesive, fluent football against the defensive rigours of the Premier League, particularly in Núñez's case. So lots to learn, lots of time spent on the training ground trying to understand, trying to replicate what central defenders will do, getting absolutely smashed by Nat Phillips, because that's exactly what's going to happen when he comes back. You know, that boy will smash it, run through a wall, mate. He's an absolute tank, right? Yeah, and it's funny, but he is, and that's what we're going to need to do. We're going to need to show him what central defenders will do, because look, shithousery in football is a thing. He played in the Portuguese league where it's full of them, and the master of shithousery, Pepe, plays in the same league. So it's not the first time he's seen it, is it? But it was really poor. He will be a target for central defenders.
Mm.
But he's got so many attributes to his game in terms of how he goes off the shoulder. He's electric. He's still the fastest recorded player in the Premier League this season, in terms of sprinting speed. So we might try and play a little bit more on counter attack, and that would suit him, and it would probably suit Diaz and Salah as well, because then you can run in behind people, and that's one thing we are blessed with, which is insane pace in the front three.
Kojo, I mean, Rashford and Martial. I think Martial, when he came on, he had a splendid game as well. There's a nice pass to Rashford. But Jadon Sancho as well. I know you didn't have the best start to the season, the first two games, but winning against Liverpool obviously does change that a bit. Jadon Sancho getting on the score sheet does help his confidence, because he doesn't get the troops meme this week. And to Rashford, obviously, what he's been through for the past year and a half, got to be a massive confidence booster as well. It was a very tidy finish as well.
Yeah, I mean, I need to give you a lot of credit to Sancho, because watching the game live, when the ball came to me, I was thinking, I was shouting, just shoot. Like, what's going on here? For him to have the composure to just think about dribbling first, obviously, we'll get into the defending as well. But you know, for him, that composure to not rush the effort, to take his time with the shot, pick his spot. Obviously, luck comes into it as well. Like I said, with the defending, but regardless, the quality was shown. And what I'll say is, the reason why I was a lot more happy about this lineup is because you had two midfielders whose job is to create, in terms of Bruno Fernandes and Christian Eriksen. Eriksen from deep, Bruno Fernandes a lot more forward. And they are very good and a lot better than the fabled usual midfield two of sort of not only finding their teammates, but if they need to do short or long passes, they'll find Sancho where he needs to be. And he's very good at finding space on the pitch no matter what. So even in his toughest start at United, in his toughest games, he's always been able to find space. It's just about the execution of what he does next. And against Liverpool, many a time he was found in space on the right wing. He was found in the middle. It was quite simple and easy for him to find space. The midfield of Liverpool played a part in that. No blame to Harvey Elliott, because he's a young guy. He's not even a centre midfielder by trade. The other two, Milner and Henderson, struggled badly throughout the game, and he fully took advantage of that. Eriksen being the key of that. Brilliant goal. And for Marcus Rashford, as soon as he scored the goal, you saw a new confident player. I think he needed that goal. His record against Liverpool is really good. If I put that first, I think that was his 6th in 8 games now against Liverpool, which is really good. But what made me so happy is, in recent time, when he's a one-on-one with the goalkeeper, or when he's got a shot where it's coming as a cross or anything, he seems so indecisive with his choice of effort, and therefore it happens that he just doesn't hit the back of the net. He doesn't make the right choice. That's basically the best way to sum it up. But as soon as he was one-on-one, you could see he took one touch and he finished it. And that's what we've always said about the best strikers. I'm not saying he's one of them already, but what we've been saying about the best strikers is, when you watch the greats and what they've done, they don't give the goalkeeper the chance to breathe. Even if he's on rushing or if he's on his line, it's one touch and I know what I'm doing next with the ball. And his finish was accomplished. Near post past Alisson. Alisson's a phenomenal goalkeeper. He's proven that. Some of the saves he made in this game, fantastic as well. The Eriksen free kick save. I don't know if that was going in. I don't know if it was hitting the woodwork, but regardless,
it was creeping in.
The reach for that. Even Rashford's other effort, when Varane sort of juggled the ball a little bit in the box and he took a quick snapshot. Alisson saw that late and he got down, and that's the kind of quality you're going up against. So you have to be decisive when you're going up against him, and the finish was just that. And after that, he was a lot more direct. He was a lot more confident in his dribble, and I think he needed that. I've always, like I said before, for the team, after 2 devastating results, beating your biggest rivals is huge. But for Marcus Rashford, as an individual who has not had a good time in the last year and a half, to score against the biggest rivals. Being a Man United fan as well, he knows that to score against the biggest rivals and to then play the game the way he did and look a lot more confident, dribble more, shoot more. It's only good for him and it's only good for Man United as well. So kudos to those two as well. And I mean they shone, and I'll even give praise to Scott McTominay as well because McTominay was really good. He was good. But he intercepted passes well. His forward passes made sense. The chance for Elanga after he intercepted the pass straight to Bruno Fernandes was brilliant. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes had a way to go to try and get there first, but regardless, he was able to get there because the pass had just about enough weight for him to get there. Obviously, you would hope that Elanga would finish it, but he didn't, which is unlucky for the young guy. But those three in particular, I will give them kudos because I think those three are out in the lineup. Those three are the most criticized. I mean, I know, I criticize
boy
time. So, honestly, they were fantastic and they deserve it. They deserve the praise. So, in terms of the defending, James Milner I think he panicked. I think he just thought, let me just rush in there. I get it. It's a high pressure game. You haven't started off very well. Trent Alexander-Arnold and who I think might have been Gomez on that right side with him, who was done by the 1-2 with Malacia and Ericsson. But I think they were done with the 1-2 because for me, it looked like there was a lack of effort there. I'm not going to say that they're not intelligent enough to see the situation because I would think they are. They are intelligent footballers. Gomez has shown that he's a good defender in the past. I don't think he's lost that. Trent Alexander-Arnold is obviously a quality footballer. We've shown that. Defensively, there'll always be question marks, but we all know he's a great footballer. There's a lack of effort for me, but Van Dijk is the real criminal of this one for me because
really is.
Look, Steve, I don't know how long you've been listening to the podcast for, but back when he was at Southampton, me and Kale were saying that he was one of the best defenders in the league already. We wanted to see where he'd go next, where his big move would be. I was gutted that he joined you, and I'm not gonna say that my thoughts changed as soon as he joined Liverpool because he's been phenomenal for Liverpool. But what I've seen from the end of last season and throughout the beginning of this season is complacency. In that situation where Milner has gone forward, the one thing you need to do is just get close. I was screaming at Man United players all day as well because times where you were getting close to creating chances is because we're giving you time on the ball to make things happen. Diaz was getting time. Van Dijk was getting time to play some passes. So he has to apply the same sort of thing. And he was so complacent. You cannot, in that situation, knowing that you don't know what's happening behind you with Alisson, fine. But Milner's out of the equation now. Trent Alexander-Arnold's not getting there. You need to get forward and make yourself as big as possible. I know your arms can't be out, so your arms are back, but you're already a big lad in general anyway. You're a physical specimen. Make it difficult for the guy to finish. He shouldn't be able to find that opportunity so easy for him. Bruno Fernandes shouldn't be pointing at the goal saying, hey, there's a big gap over here. It shouldn't be happening. That's poor. Very complacent. He's been doing that for a while now. And the second goal as well, it's hard to criticize Joe Gomez on this, but what I will say is he was in a tough situation. After Martial beat, I think, 2 or 3 Liverpool players, there's only one pass he was really going to make. And I'm not saying it was easy for him to make to cut out the pass because that would be wrong. What my criticism was, he sort of at first knew where Rashford was. And just like a lot of defenders today, immediately his focus was off where he was and it was just ball watching. And I feel like in that time, if he had maybe tried to run a bit more with Rashford, give Martial a bit more to think about, maybe put a bit more pressure on him to make the right pass. So it's difficult to beat Gomez in that situation. I don't think he did that well. And he's another one that I've criticized in the past as well because he's not someone that likes to approach defenders or forwards, rather. I don't know if that's a tactic. I don't know if that's a thing that sort of, because I see different from Matip and Konate. They're not those kind of defenders. They're very aggressive. They will get at you and they'll make sure that they're there. So I don't know why Joe Gomez and Van Dijk, who had a phenomenal partnership, I think 3 years ago, were so complacent and quite lazy with their defending. It was very shocking to see.
Two different reasons.
Go for it.
Two different reasons. Van Dijk's reading too much into quotes from people like Paolo Maldini, where he says, if I have to make a tackle, I've made a mistake. What Van Dijk's been doing for a couple of years is shepherding players away from danger and using his physical presence to basically make them switch off. And he's become complacent with that. There's a little bit of arrogance in his game in that he doesn't feel he has to engage with people. He does. Clearly he does. We need to go back to Van Dijk winning everything scenario that he did when he first came to the football club, when everybody thought, like you guys, wow, he was good at Southampton. Now look at him, he's transformed that football club, which is what he did. So in Van Dijk's case, win the ball. You're big enough, you're quick enough, you're strong enough. His IQ he's playing off his IQ, and that's dangerous. He's using his IQ to shut down space to stop defenders, stop attackers doing things, and it doesn't work every time. And to stand there with your arms behind your back to not give the penalty away and basically block the sight of your goalkeeper is ridiculous. And he rightly got dug out by James Milner for it, and that was, I respect that massively. With Joe Gomez, we often speak about Joe Gomez on Red Men. How do you get Joe Gomez back to the Joe Gomez of that year when we won the title and the year we went to Champions League final? He needs 8 to 10 games to get himself back in. Such is the strength of his opposition at the football club. He doesn't get 8 to 10 games to get himself back in the flow. And he did switch off, and he should have matched Rashford's run. The moment Rashford gets a yard on him and he's running forward and Gomez has to twist, he's not catching him. Yeah. There's not a central defender in world football, and that includes Van Dijk or Konate, who's actually quicker than Van Dijk, who will recover that ground because he'll run across him as well, which makes it impossible for him to deal with. There'll be quite a conversation around the way the team conceded the goals at training today. They were called in today. It's supposed to be their day off. They were called in to do additional work. It's not just Ten Hag that does it. Managers do it when they see things they don't like. They'll sit down and, as they always do, and as I always say, they'll look at the 2, 3, 4 things that culminate with the goal. So yes, you can say Van Dijk's positioning was terrible. Yes, you can say the number 6 didn't appear on the edge of the box to try and stop the cutback, which it didn't happen. Yes, you could say Trent switched off for the 1-2, and Gomez wasn't expecting Rashford to cut back across him like he did, back towards the edge of the box, which was really clever forward play. And if he touches him, he goes down and it's a penalty. We got ourselves in a real mess for that. So they'll look at it for a number of reasons, and they'll go back to the thing that I always say, and I did it myself as a football manager, and I did it myself as a player: stop the danger at the source. It's very, very easy to look at this player or that player and dig him out and say it was him. Mitrovic against Fulham beats Trent to the ball. You give Mitrovic the run on anybody in the Premier League, and that includes your centre-halves, you've got problems. Not a right winger, a right back who isn't renowned for his defensive prowess. Not Trent's fault. You've got to stop the cross. You've got to stop the run on people to get the cross in. So they'll sit and watch the video back, and they'll start it at the start, and they'll run it through, and they'll say, you didn't do that, you didn't do that, you didn't do that, you didn't do that, and that's why they scored. And all I saw all the way through the first 20 minutes of that game was people that I speak to about football saying the same thing: wake up. We were begging for Liverpool to wake up. It didn't happen.
After 45 minutes, I think there were a few other games on the weekend that we must talk about. So we'll get into those ones right about now. There were other games. I will start with Tottenham, the game I didn't watch. But apparently the game they snatched 1-0. Harry Kane scored the only goal of the entire game. Even Perisic with the assist. Kojo, you take it from me because I didn't. You was watching Tottenham. Bun them, man.
Oh, I watched Tottenham, but
because you're a secret Tottenham fan, but you're a Man United fan now. You beat.
Listen. My team won yesterday. I'm happy. No, you know what? It was a game of two halves, and what I will say is Wolves just didn't take their chances in the first half. That's as simple as it gets. Tottenham were terrible. I think Wolves had 10 shots in the first half. Spurs had 1. Like that tells you where the game was going. Spurs were poor. They were very poor. They weren't stringing passes together well. Son was indecisive. Kane was nowhere to be seen. Kulusevski couldn't be found because they were closing him down as soon as the ball was getting there. Wolves were great, but they just lacked the cutting edge. But whatever Conte said at halftime, I know that's usually fabled. Whatever the manager said worked, but I can imagine with his character, he was not happy with that. And what he said in the 15 minutes, second half, Spurs came out a new team. They looked a lot more focused, and it looked a lot more dangerous. And it was only a matter of time before they got their goal. You could see it coming because they were starting to get a lot more closer. Kane hit the bar. Perisic was getting a lot more involved in the game. And I'll always say this about Perisic. When you've got a player that's good with both feet, that can play as a wing back, that can play as a winger on the left side, and know how to defend and attack really well, you've got a problem player there. And Wolves didn't know how to deal with him in that second half. Even the assist, I think the corner was not supposed to be taken like that. I don't think so. But for him to head it back the way he did, that's a quality assist. That's not an easy thing to do. We got to give credit to footballers when they do or create those kind of chances, because that's not an easy skill to pull off. And Kane, I will criticize the defending of I don't think, was it Dendoncker? It might be Dendoncker. You're with him, you see him, and again, similar to what we saw over the weekend with, on Monday with Liverpool, immediate ball watching. You're not watching your opponent. You're not focusing on where he is anymore. You can't give someone like Harry Kane space in the box, let alone Harry Kane space in the 6-yard box. That's poor. That's very, very poor. But what I will say about Harry Kane is this: 8 full seasons in the Premier League and 250 goals is insane. It's an insane return. And what I will say is, for that return, it's a damn shame that he has not left and gone to win anything elsewhere. Because I will always say this: Spurs were on the cusp of doing something special. They finished third in the 2-horse race, yes, but then they finished second after, and they needed 1 or 2 more pieces, which is what Pochettino was screaming about. Obviously, he went very vocal by it in interviews and everything. Didn't help his cause, because you know how it is with Daniel Levy, but he had a point. But as a player, if you are contributing this much to the team, and you realize that the manager is not being backed and not bringing in the right players to help continue the process and hopefully go from third to second to first one day, you got to take the decision that's best for you. And I'm not trying to take away from Harry Kane's moment, because 250 goals in 8 years is ridiculous in any way. Wayne Rooney's Man United's top goal scorer is 250 goals, and he's done it in 8 years at Tottenham for teams that have been up and down at Spurs. So it's brilliant, his records, but it's a damn shame he hasn't won anything yet for all those goals. So yeah, but other than that, look, it was a game of 2 halves. Tottenham got their goal, Wolves didn't, and that's what happens in football. You get punished if you don't take your chances.
Blame it on his brother. Those 6 years, boy, is what it is.
You know what, though, boys? You know what is a concern for the rest of the league is Tottenham are showing tactical flexibility in terms of they go in at half time, having had a shocking first half, and he's able to get hold of them and make changes, and they come out the second half and they're answering problems that were put in front of them in the first half. So I think we all expected Conte to be he is a good manager. He's got a track record to prove it. There's probably 5 or 6 managers in world football in its entirety that can make those changes in the middle of a game, and he's one of them. So from a Spurs point of view, that must be pleasing. Not for you or for me, but for them certainly.
Definitely not for me, because I don't like the fact that he's got one of the best managers in the world at the helm. But it's enough talking about Spurs. Let's talk about the best team in North London, of course. Arsenal won on the weekend, 3-0. Goals from Odegaard and the greatest chant of all time, Saliba. Hello, Isla joins us as well as the 4th member of Free. Oh, we're talking about the 5th member. I do apologize, Reggie. The 5th member of Free Midfield, but she is there. You want to sing that chant, Kojo?
No, it's not my chant. I'm not singing that song.
All right, they're going. All right, then. But no, Saliba with one. Oh, it was a great finish. I can't complain about that. Odegaard's finish wasn't too bad either. But Steve, we'll start with you. New look Arsenal, I'd say.
Yeah, totally. And I've been on a couple of pods with yourself included, saying it's not right to get rid of Arteta, and you guys are like, no, he's done. Get shut.
All right, Steve. No, all right.
So we were right. We were right, and you were wrong, because we don't look at our team the same way that you look at your team, and you don't look at my team the same way that I do. We see different things. Yeah, there's a little bit of a belief growing in there. There's some. I will say this: as good as you were, Bournemouth really helped because I thought
Yeah,
Bournemouth
yeah,
were
yeah.
absolutely dreadful. Scott Parker's probably entertaining for his choice of jumpers and cardigans before the game, isn't he? More so than his team's play. But he said they were going to try and match you with intensity, and I just didn't see it.
No.
And their game plan played right into your hands. Teams have got to stop sitting in deep. You can't have what you hold when you're 2-0 down. Doesn't work. You've got to go and try and have a go. You know, I don't like the phrase free hit, but it is. Nobody on planet football thought that Bournemouth had a chance against Arsenal. So why go and camp on the edge of your box and try and keep them out? They've got footballers. They'll find angles. They've got someone that comes from the Pep Guardiola school of creating angles, the pullbacks, they're creating triangles. Bournemouth don't have the players to deal with that. We've got them at the weekend, so I'm sitting here saying all this about how poor Bournemouth were. God forbid that they don't do what I don't want them to do, and they get something against us because I'll look a proper mug then, won't I? But to be fair, yeah, Arsenal look good. The interesting question for me for Arsenal is when 2 and 3 games a week start coming with the introduction of Europe, we'll see how good your squad is. When you get your first team out there and things are going well, you've great front runners, really really good front runners. We need to find out what you like when you come under a bit of pressure. But as an Arsenal fan, mate, you must be delighted. Their football's nice to watch. Gabriel Jesus has been a revelation. I'm not a Zinchenko fan, but he's doing bits and pieces for you. I never thought for 1 second he bought him to play him centre midfield, which is what some Arsenal fans told me.
Yeah, no.
See, Kieran Tierney can play as a left-sided centre back as well, and that might be something that you look to do in the future when he's fit. Getting him fit's a different story altogether. He needs to go and see a witch doctor or something because that guy has got some bad injury, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think he tucks his shirt in too tight. That's probably the reason.
Yeah.
Well,
Man,
yeah.
you know what? I don't know. Him and Thiago, whatever they do at the weekend, stop them doing it because it's not working, is it? But yeah, mate. Arsenal are enjoyable to watch at the moment. The football's a nice brand of football, and even Granit Xhaka's getting plaudits from Arsenal fans, which I never thought I'd see ever again.
Not from me, but yeah.
No, but they're going well, mate, and trust the process, shall we say that? Well, keep it going, mate, because it's good and it's nice to see someone else. You know, it'd be good to see. I'd rather Arsenal got in the top 4 than Chelsea, if I'm being honest with you. But we'll see what happens when the games come thick and fast. October is an absolute bitch for football matches, mate. Liverpool will play 14 games in 6 weeks. That is insane.
Yeah.
Ooh.
We will all play 44% of our league fixtures prior to the World Cup starting.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
It's gonna be just off that World Cup's gonna be horrible if that's the case. Then everybody's going to.
This is why I made the point earlier about 14 Manchester City players having to do that.
Yeah.
And then going to Qatar to play in insane heat and all the pressures that comes with that for the likes of Belgium, for the likes of England, who you would anticipate would go quite deep into the tournament. Which is why I will continue to say, if you're in the mix when the season reconvenes after the World Cup, it could be really interesting end to the season.
Absolutely.
Could be. But I mean, on Arsenal, and they were. I do agree that Bournemouth played into our hands, but they still were fantastic. I think Saliba had a very solid game again, which is looking quite promising. Odegaard getting on the score sheet. I think he's almost matched his goal tally for last season, which in some ways is good, and in some ways is worrying. But I think he's only going to press on, especially now he's taken up the captaincy role from who was it last season? Irrelevant. That's who it was last season.
It was Aubameyang and Lacazette.
It was Aubameyang. Yeah, that's why they were both irrelevant. But yeah, Gabriel Jesus has been a revelation, man. I honestly didn't expect to see him doing what he was doing. The assist for the first goal was absolutely mind-boggling, man. He's like, or the second goal, I think it was. I made a joke in the group chat calling him R9, and Darren absolutely flogged me for it. But that's the thing that's obviously running around right now. That's the joke that a whole bunch of Arsenal fans are running with, and I'll run with it too, man. He's absolutely electric, and it's a shame that his goal was disallowed because that finish was very, very tidy as well. Another finish that was tidy, Saliba, man. That I mean, everybody had their hands on their heads, and I completely understand why. I was there with them because that went into the toppest of bins, and it's a great way to start off your Arsenal goal tally, even though he is a defender. But I mean, the fans love him. I love him already. Hopefully, Arteta learns to love him, and hopefully he can stay at Arsenal for a long, because I think his contract is running out in 2 years. So that's going to be a very tricky sell, especially if we don't get Champions League. I think we're in good nick. You know, I do agree that our squad is going to come into a bit of trouble with the games coming thick and fast in October, and with Europe also to play for. But I do believe that they came out and said that they're still looking for 2 new additions. So that obviously massively bolsters our squad. We've got players and replacements in each position as well. So I'm thinking we'll be fine, you know. I'm thinking we'll be fine. Hopefully we can get Tielemans through the door. But you know what? I'm enjoying Arsenal right now, and I can't exactly complain. Team that might be able to complain, or fans that of a team that might be able to complain. Chelsea. Boy, nobody's expecting that. 3 goals to 0 to Leeds. Goals from Aronson, Moreno, and Jack Harrison as well. Koulibaly was also sent off, so that doesn't do their defense any favors either, and that's interesting. I'm gonna get their games, but Steve, you start off. That was a very, very shocking performance from Chelsea.
Yeah, it was. They've got this idea that they should play Reece James as a right-sided centre-back as well from somewhere, which I don't get when they've got other players in the club who can do it. I thought, have you seen that scene where he stops dead and the referee backs up and smacks into him? Have you seen that video?
Oh, Reece James, yeah.
Bit naughty that, because he knew that was coming. He could have sidestepped him. I don't know why he did that. It was a bit naughty. Listen, we know that Championship manager tactics don't work in the Premier League, where you go out and buy 6 or 7 players all at once and throw them in because they have to gel. It's the same thing I said about Liverpool's front line earlier, that you're blooding them and they're learning in real time. What Leeds are busy and intense. They've got a little bit of their manager about them. They've got all these American players, all these new players that have come into the club that are wanting to work hard and wanting to graft, because they've got great opportunities to play in the Premier League. Some of them we've never heard of before, and they're doing bits and pieces. But I think Chelsea's a mess. Yeah, they've let Werner go for pennies, considering what they paid for him. They've let Lukaku go out for £7 million loan fee. That represents a £90 million loss. They're not getting anything like that money back for him. So between those two, they've lost over £100 million in terms of revenue. Yep. Ziyech has been a mitigated flop since he joined the club. Havertz is downing out on the Champions League final goal, because I don't really see what he's doing week in, week out. They're in a bit of a mess at the moment. Mason Mount is probably the bright light in all of that. Mason Mount is a good footballer.
I think Raheem Sterling's doing decently. I want to say he's doing quite well. He has missed a few sitters here and there, but I mean he's doing what Raheem Sterling does, Kojo, and that's obviously be a massive goal threat. But Chelsea, man, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, this is what I was saying about Chelsea at the beginning of the season. Is even though they have bought, I mean, Koulibaly is a good signing because he's a better defender than what they currently had after they lost Rudiger. He's not better than Rudiger for me, but they lost Rudiger, obviously lost Christian.
Well, okay.
I've not been a fan of Koulibaly for years. And
I know you haven't.
Yeah, and I'll say it now because obviously he's in the Premier League, so it's more of a point to talk about. For me, he is very physical, which is fine. So I think the physicality of the Premier League does not phase him whatsoever, which is fantastic. I just don't think he's that good a defender. That I don't watch him and I don't get confidence in his defensive style. When Napoli, and it's tough, Juventus have dominated that league for years. Inter Milan have built a strong team. AC Milan have obviously won the league. They're back on the rise as well. But within those years, Napoli had chances to win the league. And you need your biggest boys to step up, and he is one of the big boys. And on multiple occasions, actually, he was at fault, at error for causing errors for goals. And I've just never been a fan of him. I can't. And even the Leeds game was another one. Look, I understand red cards can happen, so I'm not going to say he's rubbish for getting a red card because that's football. Red cards do happen, but the 2 red cards for me are
stupid,
so stupid, and it's the kind of thing that I've just not liked him for. I've watched him. I'm just like I don't see what other people see in you, and that's just my opinion of him. So, Chelsea are in trouble. I said this. I think they've been in trouble from the day after they won the Champions League when they went to go and buy Lukaku. It's not Lukaku's fault per se, but you had a formula that worked. You beat Man City in the Champions League final. You had a system that was working for you, and all you need to do was add players to work to that system. Signing Lukaku to play in a role that Kai Havertz was playing means you're changing the whole system completely, because Havertz is not a traditional number 9. Lukaku wants to be a traditional number 9. He wants to be fed everything. And if you're going to do that, you need to find a system that's going to work for it. And that's going to mean not only going through Chilwell and Reece James, which they were doing at the beginning of last season, but also having options in the middle as well. And when you pick midfields like Jorginho and Kante, nothing on those two. I think they're 2 brilliant footballers, but the issue is Jorginho is a creator from deep. Lukaku doesn't make those runs for him to make those passes from deep to him to run onto. He very much likes to get onto the ball to feet, and then either bully or get at the defender. He only runs in behind when it's a direct cross coming from the side. And ever since then, I feel they've had struggles. And more to the point as well, Tuchel this pre-season has pretty much just said really out loud that he has no confidence in this team. He's not shown. He says stuff like, this is what happens when you don't add players or you don't get more players or stuff like that. And, you can add Raheem Sterling, you can add Koulibaly, that's 2. That's not enough, you know what I mean? And that's why they're desperately going for Fofana. This idea, if it's true that they're going 60 million for Anthony Gordon, is ridiculous. It's all panic mode. And it's crazy because I was thinking they've gone from rich owner to rich owner. Yes, they did get rid of Czech and all that, but Chelsea do ballroom changes all the time anyway. We can go through the list of names. I was thinking the culture will still remain the same. It's gone missing. I don't think there'll ever be a regime under Abramovich where he'd okay a £60 million bid for Anthony Gordon. I'm not trying to trash Anthony Gordon, but he's done nothing in the Premier League to
60 million
to merit anything near that fee. He's not done anything at all. He's not close to the talent that Wayne Rooney was at Everton. So Everton I don't even know if they're demanding that. It seems like Chelsea are just ready to make that offer rather than Everton saying they need that money. So yeah, they're in trouble, man. Raheem Sterling will get goals this season, absolutely, but he's gonna struggle to get a lot more than he does at.
City, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and they need to find a way around that because it's that they are playing Mason Mount on the right wing, very confusing. And if I can get onto Frank Lampard for playing Mason Mount on the left wing when he was at Chelsea, I'll get onto Tuchel for playing him on the right wing because it doesn't make any sense. He doesn't know what to do with his midfield pairing, and I don't think he knows what to do with that defense either. So, and I don't even think. I mean, Cucurella is a good player, but was that a signing that you wanted because of the fact that Alonso was going? Is it a signing you wanted because City are not going to pay the money, so we will? I don't know what the cause was because they were nowhere to be seen in that whole transfer saga. And then out of nowhere, City are not going to pay the extra 10 million, and then Chelsea just do it out of nowhere. It seems like there's no plan. And if you're giving Tuchel difficulty, so it's tough for him seemingly not having enough confidence in the team. Also looks like if you're not bringing in the players that he needs, I mean, where do Chelsea go from here? They deserve that 3-0. That was an embarrassing performance. And also shout out Mendy for a wonderful assist. Bloody hell. Bloody hell. And he was shouting at other players. Have some damn, I don't know. I was even going to swear.
Shame, man.
Yeah, shame is the correct word. Like, come on. You had more than enough time to clear the ball. It's not about short passes all the time. Get rid of the ball if you're in trouble. And he tried to dribble his way out, and it was very poorly done. And he was rightfully punished. Shout out Aronson for the no-look finish from 1 yard.
The school of Bobby Firmino, that man.
Defo channeling is in a Bobby Firmino there, wasn't it?
There we go. And see.
But no, good for Leeds, and it's good to see Leeds as well defending better as well because Leeds will be a team that always attack. That's their philosophy now. No matter the manager you get, but they're defending better. So good on them.
Your manager's philosophy that just seems to be blossoming is Graham Potter's obvious at Brighton. They won 2-0, beating West Ham. Goals from McAllister from the penalty spot and Trossard. That penalty was just so stupid, going absolutely nowhere, and just brings him down. Absolute stupidity from the defender there, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no words that can find anything to make that okay. And West Ham are in a little bit of spot of bother at the moment, aren't they? 3 games, 3 defeats, bottom of the league. Not looking so great for them. Yeah, they've applied a bit of cash to it. There's Samarco in and other players as well, and they're about to do a deal for Emerson, the Chelsea Emerson, isn't it? So
deal now,
yeah. So they're throwing a bit of money at it. And there'll be another one that's recruitment comes under speculation at the end of the season. Are making the right signings in the right places? I don't know. Souček isn't the player he was 18 months ago at the minute. Big pressure on Declan Rice's shoulders to hold that midfield up when the guy playing alongside him isn't delivering. Tough. They've got some work to do to sort that out. But on the flip side, mate, Brighton are lovely to watch. They really are. They've got the right footballing philosophy. In Trossard, they've got a real gem. I don't see him staying there for forever, if being honest with you. And Graham Potter just does things right. And every time I listen to Graham Potter speak, covers himself well, says all the right things, has clearly got the right footballing philosophy. He's got everything a big club would want. The only thing he hasn't done is manage egotistical footballers and dealt with big budgets. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's often the thing that trips people up. You know, Frank Lampard will sell Gordon at some point, and he wants to buy Kudos from Ajax. He wants to buy Pedro from Watford, and he wants to buy Che Adams from Southampton. What's he doing that for?
That doesn't sound like he's for. The thing is, Kudos is not a bad player. Kudos is a good player. Ja Pedro, young talent. I haven't seen much of him at Watford, so I can't really speak on him.
Doing well in the championship, but then again, it's a championship.
Yeah, Che Adams.
No.
You're trying to stay up in the league, and Che Adams is where you go. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Could you imagine a world where you've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin not fit to play, but fit to dress in a skirt on the front of a magazine, and you've got Solomon Rondon and Che Adams as your go-to front men, mate?
Steve, I forgot they had Solomon Rondon. Oh my goodness.
He'll be in the next Jurassic Park, mate. He's that old.
Oh man, it's always good to see West Ham.
I told you, boys. Frank Lampard's heading for Question of Sport. You watch.
Question of Sport. That's rude. I thought you were going to say Talk Sport for a second. Question of Sport is rude. That's maybe Jared's looking quite questionable as well.
We're with Bolton tonight, 1-1 at the moment away at Bolton Villa, mate. And
really?
He's got like 3 games to save his job.
Yikes! It's not looking good. It is not looking good for Jared.
But in fairness, anyone who goes and spends anything more than a tenner on Diego Carlos is asking for trouble. That's the most rash centre back the world's ever seen.
Yeah. Very odd signing, that one.
Very odd signing, and the signings that are working seems to be at Newcastle. They drew with Manchester City in the end, 3-3. They had got off to an absolute Gundogan scored the first goal, which was very, very easy. For a very, very poor defending from Newcastle, but they got right back on the horse, and Almiron scored, and Callum Wilson gave him a shocking lead. 2-1 and then 3-1. Kieran Trippier looking a very, very sticky situation, massively. But Haaland scored and Bernardo Silva equalized. Kieran Trippier was sent off for the dumbest challenge. Well, it was rescinded, but still, that's the dumbest challenge.
That has got to be going forward a red card. They've got to change the classification. That is as cynical tactical foul as you'll ever see.
But yeah, I mean, Newcastle almost getting a victory against Manchester City. The oil derby. Let's call it that. But no, very promising signs from Newcastle. Very promising signs for Eddie Howe as well. Who's doing wonders at that club. I have to admit, I was wrong. I have to admit.
Hey, listen, we're all wrong. That's me and you, because we're not Eddie Howe fans here. But it seems like he's gone away after leaving Bournemouth. He's gone away and sort of just like worked on his tactical style. You know, identify players. The signings they made this summer, Botman being a key one, has worked out very well. Matt Target is a very good addition as well. They seem to have found a system that's working for them very, very well. And Newcastle have like a passion around them. It's not just the fans. The way they play is very, very energetic. It matches the sound you hear from the fans, especially at home. Being how like Newcastle fans are so passionate about their club and their city. But they were well worth the point. I mean, look, City have quality in abundance. So, you know, the goals that they got, the third goal in particular, the pass from Kevin De Bruyne was out of this world. To find Bernardo Silva, very, very neat finish as well of him. But it's a good result for Newcastle, and they continue to show good form. They've got a consistent lineup. I think he knows what his best lineup is, with Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes in the middle. Eddie Howe's come back a new manager for me. I will say that, and kudos to him, because again, when he was hired, me and KO were here saying, I don't think this is going to work, mate. I'm not sure if he's the guy that you want to give the job to. Weren't thinking long term, even short term maybe, because we weren't a fan of his later years at Bournemouth. But he's improved massively, and the team has improved with him. Say Maximan has gone from a 2 out of 10 decision-making player to a 4 out of 10 decision-making player. So that's
I'm glad you reined it in. I thought you were going to go like 7. I was about to slap you through the screen.
But they were well off the point. Trippier with a very, very, very good free kick as well. Bloody hell. But when you got Haaland, Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, and so on and so forth, you are going to create chances and you're going to find goals. And they got their goals. But Newcastle were worth the point. It's interesting for City as well, because look, City will lose this season. Don't get me wrong. So I'm not going to talk about them saying, you know, 1 point, what could it mean for the title race, whatever, because they will lose a game this season. The same way we're talking about Liverpool right now, 2 losses, 1 draw. But in football, anything can happen. If they win their next 30, the two draws and 1 loss don't mean a thing, you know. So it's just interesting to see how City will go this season, because I also have some question marks about them. Don't get me wrong, they're still a phenomenal side. They'll still trounce a lot of teams in this league regardless. But I feel like their transitional stage is coming as well. And it's interesting to see, because Sterling and Zinchenko, well, Sterling was probably going to leave anyway. Zinchenko was one that was out of the blue. Bernardo Silva apparently has never really liked Manchester and really wants to go to Barcelona. I don't know if that deal was done or not done, but dead yet, rather, I should say.
It should be. Barca are broke, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, I want to be Barca broke. That kind of broke is beautiful. You know, Gundogan. I think Gundogan is in his 30s now, so that's another player that you have to look at as well. Rodri's still got years on him, so he's absolutely fine. But it's very interesting to see what the next stage is, because Kyle Walker struggled, by the way, in this game.
It's the first time ever I've seen Kyle Walker struggle for pace as well.
Yeah, if we're talking about criticizing right backs this weekend, he was outpaced by both St. Maximin and Joe Willock. Like, pace is his thing. That's why we're directly talking about pace, because that's his biggest, should I say quality or biggest? Yeah, you know.
No, it's his biggest quality, because that man defends on pace alone.
Yeah, well, yeah, precisely. That is his
Mr. Recovery Run. That's what Kyle Walker's nickname should be.
There you go. So, yeah, it was very interesting. It's very interesting to see how they go from here, because they'll always buy players. I mean, they sold Sterling and Jesus, and they've brought in Haaland and Julian Alvarez. So that's the forward sorted, you know. But
yeah.
Even Riyad Mahrez is still there, but he's in his 30s as well. It's just interesting to see what the next stage is for City as well. Every team has their spell. Man United had their spell. Liverpool had their spell, and some people are saying it's over already. It's 3 games in, so I'm not saying the damn thing. Could City have their spell as well and make it slow down? They'll always be title contenders, absolutely, but would they be as dominant? when other teams are up on the rise. Tottenham are looking good. Arsenal are looking really good right now. Obviously, question marks about consistency about those two teams. Same as Man United. Man United could win the next 5, and you'd think they'll lose the 6-1 anyway. So, it just depends on how teams perform. But, yeah, Newcastle were well with their point, and they got a lot of money now as well. So they're going to be on the come up very soon. They're going to be bringing a lot more quality, and it won't be long before we start seeing them become a top 4 contender and then maybe a title contender.
Steve, your final words on the matter.
Yeah, tell you what, it's interesting to hear you boys praising Kyle Walker as a recovery speed, as his biggest asset. Because I can remember doing a draft on your pod when I picked Kyle Walker in my back 3, and you pair ruined him. And I lost out on the vote on the night because you two destroyed Kyle Walker. And
I don't think he's a good defender. But I know what I'm saying. What I'm saying is he's missed the recovery run. That is what he's good at. He's not a great defender.
Kojo's reaction. He knows. I was.
Oh my god!
He's still not happy about that Mesut Ozil thing. He will never live that down.
No. I'm joking. Yeah, I think Newcastle need to learn how to manage games because at 3-1. That there's 2 balls that De Bruyne played right through the heart of their midfield and the defence into the box. Joe Linton has been a bit of a revelation in centre midfield, but he can't see danger, and that's the worry for them.
You're the striker, that's why he can't see danger.
Well, exactly. So whilst everyone's going, "Wow, Joe Linton's amazing," should be looking at him as a centre midfielder for Liverpool. Now, don't do that. He's done well for them because he's combative, he works hard, he's big unit, he looks after the ball really well when he's on it because of his size, and he's quite good defensively in terms of winning headers in his own box. He just doesn't see danger, and if that game had gone on for 5 minutes longer, City would have won it because they were finding holes all over the place. And when you've got Kevin De Bruyne, who's a ridiculous talent, as we all know, threading the eye of a needle for Silva to score, they'd have done it again a couple of minutes later. So I like what Newcastle are doing. I share your opinion that when Eddie Howe went in there, I thought that can't be a long-term thing because they'll reach a point where his ability stops and Newcastle don't develop beyond that. I still think that will be the case. I don't know when that's going to be, but I do think for the project, he's a short to medium-term manager. He might prove me wrong. He's done a great job, to be fair, but what he's done is he's taken the players that were there before, added some good players in key areas, but the players who were there before have been given jobs to do and they know what their jobs are, and under Steve Brewster didn't. So, and that's the reason why they stayed up, because they were better than the teams that below them that didn't have a clue. So they're interesting to watch. Maxim still frustrates me. Late on in the game, he picks the ball up on the left-hand side. He goes all the way across the front of the box. He's pulling them all over the place. And then he tries a reverse ball past his standing foot. And I'm thinking to myself, if a 6-year-old did that, you'd have problems watching them do that because there's no awareness of football at all in that move. But he's exciting, and he gave Kyle Walker a torrid time, and Luis Diaz gave Kyle Walker a torrid time, and eventually time will catch. He's not young, Kyle Walker, by any stretch, is he? But they're gonna concede goals, and they're gonna struggle. I agree with everything Kojo said before. I kind of hope Frankie de Jong goes to say Chelsea, for instance, because I still don't think he makes them any better, and it'll be another £70 million they waste.
Yeah.
And then they use the money to buy Silva because that weakens Manchester City immeasurably.
It does indeed. And on that note, I think we should wrap it up here. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for watching. This has been the Match Report. Kojo. No, sorry. Steve, we'll start with you. Where can they find you, sir?
You can get me at my socials. Done it right again. Yes, the right hand.
Yes, you have, sir.
That's always a thing, isn't it? It's the right hand. I got it right. There, you can catch me on Red Men once a week, and on Sunday nights on Gridscarn TV on a show called Red Fellas, which was very, very lively on Sunday, as you might imagine, with the emotions of the game that was coming up and what would be. They're dissecting it now. I'm here with you fellas, so I didn't want to go on that because that's going to be a tough show to be on because we're not happy and they're not happy, and you understand why. But always a pleasure to come on with you guys, and I say it all the time. Anyone who retrospectively catches up with this that isn't a subscriber and a follower, get it done, because this is a great show and you get loads of good people on here, and it's always good to talk sensible football with decent lads.
There we go. For the first of the season, we love to see it. Kojo, where can they find us?
So before I say that, I'm thinking probably next week might be rebrand season.
Okay.
Kel knows what I'm talking about. So it could be rebrand season. So soon coming. But other than that, the audios and everything will be out tomorrow. That is on Spotify, SoundCloud, and Apple Podcast Free Midfield. Your audios, your socials, rather, your Twitter, your SoundCloud, and your TikTok is and Twitch, 3 Midfield, and on YouTube, the Match Report, 3 Midfield, which is kind of a hint as to rebrand, because
There we go. This has been another episode of the Match Report. Good night.